Around this time last year, I took a trip up to San Francisco to visit the new industrial knitting machine at Sequoia Fabrica. I filmed so much and then just left it sitting on a hard drive because it was an overwhelming pile of editing to get done. But I think now I have distilled it down to the best of the footage. So please enjoy this look at what your domestic knitting machine wants to be when it grows up. This is Sequoia Fabrica, a community workshop makerspace in San Francisco. It opened in March 2024 as a space for both low-tech and high-tech manufacturing. Today, we're here for the high-tech. Can you tell me about this knitting machine?
This is an industrial knitting machine that we've imported from Shanghai a few months ago.
And this is Emmeline.
Hi, my name is Emmeline, and I'm a professor and researcher in human-computer interaction. I got into knitting machines during the pandemic. My grandmother was a wonderful knitter. I cannot, for the life of me, get anything right with proper knitting needles, and I figured that knitting machines might be easier. I was very wrong. What the difference with this machine and other knitting machines like electronic domestic machines is that everything from patterning and shaping is automated using these carriages. It's able to move the needles, move stitches, move the yarn across, which enables to do 4 or 6 colors a car, to do cables, do lace, shaping, just everything that you would find in a knitted garment automatically once you've written the file for it.
And how do you write those files?
You write those files with an extremely unfriendly software called HQPDS, which we can go have a look at. All right, okay, so each square is 1 stitch. Each color corresponds to a type of stitches. So this is a front knit stitch. This is a back knit stitch. All of these stitch types are here. Like front stitch, back stitch, front and back stitch. Each of these are different type of operations that you can do with a machine.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of them.
So you can move a stitch to the right, you can move a stitch to the left, you can move a stitch from the back bed to the front bed. You have essentially like programmable stitches, like those IG5 and 6 is where the jacquard is made. So this has both yarn and knitting operations.
So it's like you can build your own complex stitches?
Yeah.
Like functions, kind of?
Yeah.
How did you learn how to work with this software?
Painfully.
What does that mean?
It's what it means is that...
Is it all in Chinese?
Some of it is in English, but it's been translated automatically. Yeah.
I imagine with like domain-specific lingo, it would be really tricky to translate that automatically.
There are a few videos that were made for operators on YouTube, which are usually at least partially subtitled that you can learn from, or at least looking at how people are doing things. Well, first of all, it took months. It took 4 months of working on this. A lot of trial and error, a lot of reading the documentation. I also have a chat with the manufacturer whenever I get stuck and I can't figure out what's happening.
Do they have training material for English speakers?
They only have the manuals. So what happens, that's the difference with the German manufacturer or the Japanese manufacturer. They send you on a 3 to 4 weeks training with their staff, and then you learn how to make X and Y swatches and projects. What we did is that we were able to get some of the training materials from Kniterate. We were able to get some of the training materials from Shema. We had the manual and we cobbled it all together, plus our knowledge of knitting machines generally, to figure out exactly how everything was working and debug what was wrong. The issue of just we're having yarn breakage. Knowing that it's probably due to the tension, that comes from having had the same issue with a regular knitting machine.
But how did this machine wind up in San Francisco?
I was telling a friend about my obsession with knitting machines, and she was like, well, have you looked at whether there are knitting machines on Alibaba?
Is that how you found that machine?
Yes.
You just like idly were looking on Alibaba.
Well, not idly, actively searching for knitting machines on Alibaba, because we knew industrial knitting machines existed. We knew about the Shima Seiki and like the more expensive ones, but we never knew before we started looking that there were cheap industrial knitting machines that could be imported from China, and we just had no idea how this would even work. So I was the one who knew about knitting machines, and my friend knew about importing, and I got her passionate about knitting machines too. And this is how we got started helping makerspaces get industrial knitting machines.
Wow. And what did this one cost?
$4,000.
Okay, that's a significant difference.
That's a significant difference. So even if you add in shipping from China, delivery to here, it's still a lot cheaper than the knit rate. Mm-hmm. And it's extremely cheaper than any other of the industrial options. So that's the only way that these machines are accessible to maker spaces.
And this neckline shaping happened
on the machine itself.
Wow.
The thing it can't do is socks, for instance, because it can't easily... It needs to have weight.
So it can't do, can it do short rows at all?
It can do short rows, but not the kind of short rows where
it creates pockets.
Okay. Because this machine uses a roll. I mean, even the machines that use combs. So some of them use combs and some of them use rolls, which you can see under here. So the rolls need to be able to grab on the fabric for the carriage to be able to operate.
Okay.
So if it's creating a pocket and there's no way of grabbing the heel, it's not going to have a tension necessary to continue knitting.
Okay.
The other thing is that these are, even the largest gauges on these machines are smaller than most electronic knitting machines.
Really?
This is a 7 gauge. You can get a 5 gauge. But this
should be about the same as a standard gauge, right?
Yeah, so in theory, yes. In practice, it needs smaller.
Interesting.
I thought the same thing, but it's knitting closer to a lace gauge when it's on 7 gauge. But yeah, the space between each needle is the same. You could also knit one every 2 needles, but you couldn't knit with a much thicker yarn. This was one of the issues we were having at the beginning, which is that there are very few, not sure there are any left, yarn manufacturers in the United States making threads that for industrial knitting machines.
So where do you get your yarn?
So we did a youth order with Jagerspun just before they closed. And when we ran out of that, we will have to figure something out. To my knowledge, there are 3 industrial knitting machines in San Francisco in 3 different makerspaces. And there's one that gets their yarn directly from China in huge pallets. And we might just have to do that depending on how the tariff situation is.
Oh, yeah.
When we get there. I'm not looking forward to it though. So the machine is pulled down by those rolls that turn very slowly.
So there's no way to like add weight between.
No, you always, like you can see it on these samples. This is all waste yarn because it needs to be long enough to be grabbed by the rolls. Yeah, so this is all waste yarn. This is some more waste from the file, and then this was just a quick sample. You're supposed to use a nylon thread to separate those 2 parts of the knitting.
Does this also do real double knits or only double bed jacquard?
Anything you can do on the double bed. It just depends on what you're able to program on the software.
Cool.
And you can do also double-sided jacquard with reverse.
Yeah,
with reverse colors. Yes.
Cool.
All right, I was thinking more like fake ribs or things like this.
So what's the process of getting this to the machine?
There's a USB stick that comes with the machine.
I'm just curious if they have like DRM.
No, there's no DRM on the stick itself. However, some of the files are encrypted. There's no documentation about the file format. So everything that any new piece of software, you have to retro-engineer from the information that you can have from reading the original file, compiled file, and the file that's made on the machine.
Ridiculous.
You then go to import the pattern. I think that should work on the machine.
So even after you set everything up in the file, you can still change things once you get to the machine?
Yes. All right, so now it tells me I'm going to use yarn feeder 2 and yarn feeder 4. Okay. Going to save, okay. Ideally, you want to not have to re-thread your machine very often. Like you have your yarn set up, and then you just switch the colors. You can, of course, like on the sewing machine, tie it off the end and then change the color. But as much as possible, you just don't touch that. It's very important. Safety. Do not get your hand crushed by the machine. It hurts. I can testify to this. So this is where...
What are you doing?
I'm adding 40 rows of waste yarn.
Okay.
Which I can never remember the order for doing that. But anyway, and this is how we get the machine started. So this is going to do a reset.
And also the cast on for the waist yarn?
That's the waist yarn.
What's that?
We had some tension issues with this first one, but we did eventually figure it out.
These were some of our first samples, and we're having difficulties with yarn breakages because the tension was too tight. Mm-hmm. And so we tried a few different settings.
How do you find the right tension? Just trial and error?
Essentially, yes. I mean, there are some guidelines, and the manufacturer has some advice on this, but yeah, trial and error. And I wouldn't say that we're past the stage of trial and error. Could be because it was using the older settings, which was... Okay.
Okay, now it's cast on.
Yeah. Oh, this is a small one.
That's fine.
All right. Here you go.
Wow. If there are people out there at other makerspaces that are interested in getting an industrial knitting machine, how can they learn from you?
I guess you can always email me. I should give you a way to do that, shouldn't I?
Yeah, we'll put her contact information in the description.
Yes, we can. But yeah, we've been helping. It's a very informal support network. I believe there's now an industrial machine knitting channel on the machine knitting Discord.
There is, yeah.
So yeah, I guess this is the best way to build community. Let's do that.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been very informal. Like after I helped importing that machine, I heard from someone else who had imported the same machine from the same machine manufacturer, and I helped her like from afar, setting up a machine and getting started. So that's how you learn from other people.
Very cool that you figured all of that out. So is the goal to do this kind of thing to bring back manufacturing?
Yes and no. I think we should have at least some manufacturing capacity here. Do I want to bring the kind of large-scale manufacturing that enables the cheap costs that we see elsewhere at the detriment of workers who are getting hands crushed and working in extremely loud environments? No. I do think that there's an opportunity for them to support the different kind of mid-scale manufacturing. The market for that, because the cost will always be higher than exploiting people, is probably not that large. I just want the capacity to be there. And that's something that I find very scary, especially after we experienced a pandemic where the lack of industrial capacity was was problematic in all sorts of ways.
Yeah.
But we just, I don't know, garments are actually important. And there are a ton of garments made in the United States. Like, we don't necessarily need to make more of them, but like, if we don't have these machines, we don't have the opportunity to train on these machines. We don't know what that landscape is going to be later. And I think we also fail to appreciate the complexity of these processes. I think, like, as an educational machine, like, even for those who are going to work into fashion, it's actually important to have a sense of how these are made. It's also, again, it's really dependent, much more than other knitting machines. It's really dependent on the quality of yarn and having yarn manufacturing. So you could think about all sorts of way of recycling fibers, like here, instead of having to ship them overseas and back and whatnot. But this is just like one part of a very long production line. This is the one that I can preserve. So I'm doing my part is how I can think about it. But yeah, I think they're necessary for education, have some potential in terms of making more ethical garments.
Yeah. So people always ask me if I teach machine knitting, and I don't. But you have classes here, right?
Yes, there are classes here. They usually happen every month. They set out fast. Sorry. It's usually 4 to 5 people a class, depending on how it's set up. The basic knitting machine 101 is knitting a scarf. So, like, it teaches you everything from casting on to a basic cast off, and it gives you a good sense of how to operate the machine. They take 2 to 3 hours, depending on how many times the knit falls from the machine. But
all
everyone
part of the learning
needs
process.
exactly, like, and it happens less and less as the class goes on. But eventually, everyone leaves with a scarf and a good working knowledge of how to operate a machine. And don't get me wrong, this is not, well, you know, right? It's not. There's a lot more for you to learn after you've
Yes.
done just that. I know, like, with California College of Arts across the street, the basic introduction to machine knitting course, I believe, is 10 weeks of 4 hours workshop, 6 hours workshop every week.
Wow.
I think you can get up and running in a little bit less time than that when you have a smaller class. So from, as time goes on, like, during the machine knitting class, there's a kind of knitting machine social where people can just come and use the machines, but there's no instruction. And then hopefully it will grow into a class where people can teach others and teach each other more advanced techniques, like learn and teach each other more advanced techniques.
Very cool.
And there's knitting machines for everyone. I've done classes with kids on those circular toy knitting machines, making plushies. I know they're not, they won't get you a fantastic result, but they will make some really fun things.
Do you have classes specifically for kids?
Yes. That's one other thing with Sequoia. Like, either you have, and that's the case everywhere. Like, either you have classes for kids or you have classes for adults. And, like, kids are always welcome to adult classes here, as long as we're being supervised. Mm-hmm. And there's no, like, clear things that is dangerous for them to do. But that's the case for most of the classes. And then there are classes that are specifically for families, including some knitting machines.
Very cool.
Use that industrial knitting machine.
So when will there be classes for the industrial knitting machine?
Once soon, hopefully soon. I think there's still, there's what's going to be scheduled soon is a demo, and then classes will take a little bit more debugging before they can be run more smoothly.
To figure out like how to teach them and what to teach.
Yeah, and I think like we're kind of refining that with the demos. Like it's a bit of just like, oh, this is working. This is figuring out exactly what people want to learn, and we're seeing that most people want to do Jacquard, and I want this to be like a well understood process before that's being taught. And I only have so much time here, so it takes a little bit longer. But visiting the machine, that's already possible.
It is very cool. And it is right out in front. Like when you walk through the door, it's right there.
You can't miss it.
Yeah.
I personally think that everyone should have a workshop in their lives, and there's a long tradition of community workshops after World War II, especially in some parts of Europe. And I wish this was better supported at all levels, like at the policy level in terms of grants and so on. We've had a discussion earlier. Maker spaces are all having troubles finding a financial model that works. About the future of those of maker spaces in particular, I think we're underestimating how important they can be to encouraging, keeping, developing like technical and creative knowledge. Even people who go to art schools no longer have access to machines once they leave, and we're just losing all of that expertise, and maker spaces are here. I think they can be the spaces for that, and they can be extremely good for community. And I hope Sequoia Fabrica becomes that kind of long-lasting institution where
Me too.
generation after generation of people can learn how to make things.
This is a very important resource, and I really want to see it be successful long term.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm trying to create more machine knitters, and they can come here and learn how to knit.
And use more machine knitting, and we can help people get their own. We know where to find them.
Yes.
But yeah,
Small community here.
a small community. Yeah, and there are lots of knitting machines around still.
Right, well,
Until one decides to get a knitting machine, they can come and use a
Yes.
knitting machine here.
and it can be tricky when you're getting started to figure out what's the right machine for you. So it's important to like try things out first and see what works for you.
Yeah. I will say, if I do not come to a machine knitting class, if you are not ready to buy a knitting machine, because a lot of people leave that class buying a knitting machine. so like if it was one person once who was just like, I can't stay, or I'm going to buy a knitting machine, I can't listen to all of this. But yeah, they can be used here. We have lots of them.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me and show me around the space and demo the industrial machine for me. I am sure I will be back because there's so much of this stuff that I want to work with. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you for coming, and you're welcome back whenever fits.
Thanks. All right.
I hope you enjoyed this look at the industrial knitting machine at Sequoia Fabrica. There are links to all of the resources we talked about in the description. And if you're in the Bay Area and you want to attend these classes, keep an eye on the page where they're posted. They sell out really quickly. As you can imagine, Emmeline and I had a much longer conversation that I cut down for time, but the full thing is available for channel lovers if you want to listen to about an hour and a half of us nerding out about knitting machines. Speaking of channel members, I'd like to thank channel members for supporting everything I do here. If you'd like to become a channel member, you can click the join button down below. All channel members get early access to new videos, and channel members at the mid-tier and higher get access to members-only videos. It's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff and upcoming projects and projects that almost happened but didn't, and like this extended cut of this video. So if that's your thing, go check it out. Thanks for watching. Happy knitting.
Okay, what is this oil?
This is just machine knitting, a sewing machine hole. So that just.
Get a jug.
Oh yes. Have you seen our industrial sewing workshop?
No.
Those machines eat oil for a living.
I've never seen such a large jug of oil.
There you go. Like I was just like, okay, we've canceled too many times. We're doing this today, but I was like, I kind of want 2 more weeks where I can like actually spend time with the machine before I
will happily come
see.
And spend time with this machine.
I mean, yeah, I like when it like, and I know it's not very, I know it's not very close for you, but you're always welcome to